Well, g'day guys, welcome to another video. So today's video is a questions and answers video. We got a call out on our social media, so on Facebook and Instagram, just to see if any of our audience had any questions they'd like us to answer in a video. So we got a pretty good response. We've got over 30 questions sent to us. We're going to narrow that down to just 10 and hopefully be done in 10 minutes. So 10 questions, 10 minutes. So let's see how we go. We'll get stuck straight into it. Alright, first question. What do I like about snakes? So I find them they're super fascinating. There's something about these animals. It might be the way they move, the way they eat, that sort of thing. It's essentially the whole animal itself is just incredible. I grew up liking dinosaurs. Just like most kids, we're just fascinated by dinosaurs. And the fact that reptiles, being a distant relative of dinosaurs, it was just like a natural progression to go out into the garden, have a look at all the garden skinks, and that eventuated into liking snakes. So it's just been one of those ones that, I don't know what it is exactly, but I just have a pure fascination with these animals. The next question we have is, do our local snakes hibernate, and is it dependent on temperature? Being on the south coast of New South Wales, we get some pretty low temperatures here, so the temperature is a big factor in what our snakes do in the local area. They don't hibernate, they go through a period of what they call brumation, and that is where they actually go and hide, but they still got to come out and bask. So they don't hibernate like the bears do over in North America and Canada and wherever else they're from, but it's they go through a period of brumation, so they've still got to come out and bask to get their body temperature up to be able to do all their normal bodily activities that require them to survive. It's a main part of that is because they are ectothermic, which means they get their temperatures from their environment, which opposed to warm-blooded, where such as ourselves, where our body temperature is created from our core temperature, where reptiles, being ectothermic, they've got to get it from their surroundings. And as we know with us, if our body temperature drops too far, we get quite sick. And the same with the snake. So they've still got to come out and get their body temperature up for them to be able to survive. Anyway, long story short, no, they don't hibernate. They go through a period of brumation. And so that's why we still get a few call outs through winter, but it does slow right down for us. Alrighty, so this next question we get asked quite a bit, and it is, do the solar snake repellers work? Alright, I'm going to base this answer on my own experience. I've been out to a number of call outs where the solar snake repellers are buzzing away, and they've got them just scattered around this area around the house, and I've been actually called out for a red belly black snake. So my thoughts are that they don't work. I've chatted to a couple other catchers as well, and they all seem to have the same thoughts as I do, that they don't work. They've been out to calls where there's been a snake hiding right next to one, or they're slithering around one. I've even seen images online of snakes basking underneath one. So really, I don't think they work. You're probably better off saving your money and using that towards getting a catcher to come out. But that might seem a bit businessy for me to say that, but essentially, you're going to be spending a lot of money on these solar snake repellers, which turn out to be pretty expensive garden ornaments, and can possibly give you a false sense of security that the snake's not going to be around, where it's good to be mindful that they could be. So that question leads perfectly into our next one, which is there anything that actually works to keep snakes away? I did a pretty good article on this one. I've put it up on our website, so there's a link down in the description below if you want to check that out. But essentially it is that snakes only hang around our property for 3 reasons, and that's food, and that's water, and it's places to hide. So if you've got a combination of all those 3 things, then a snake may hang around. But a lot of the time, snakes are usually just passing through. They don't tend to hang around unless you've got those 3 things for them. So by keeping the grass nice and short, you're going to be making sure that snakes aren't going to feel comfortable being out in the open, because they are very timid animals. They prefer to be hidden. They don't want to be seen by us or by our pets or anything like that. So they'll stick to the longer grass or places they can hide and move along without being seen. So keeping the grass nice and short will limit the snake feeling comfortable and, most likely end up just passing through. The other thing is keeping things up off the ground. The last thing you want is to have a big pile of wood on the ground. You'll see a snake go in there and you've got a massive pile of wood, and then my most hated jobs is going through someone's big pile of firewood and making a big mess and finding a snake after about an hour to an hour and a half. But so it's one of those ones you just got to make sure you keep gardens nice and tidy, keep the grass nice and short, removing any pest species that are on your property, because that's another reason why a snake might come around. But otherwise there's not really much you can do. A lot of the time they are just passing through, so if you do see a snake, keep an eye on it and see what it does. A lot of the time it might be going, all right, I'm going to head down there just because I know that there's a big pondage of water that you can go and hang out with, and there's going to be food and water for it. So essentially just keep the place nice and tidy, and it will lessen the likelihood of a snake hanging around. Our next question is, how do you become a snake catcher? In New South Wales, National Parks, or OEH, Office Environment and Heritage, they issue licenses for New South Wales, and they have a list of things that you are required to submit to be able to get your snake catcher's license. So the first thing is you need to complete a catch and release course. John and Tina at John's Venomous Reptile Displays, I'm pretty sure I got that right, John, but I'll throw a link down in the description there to his website. So you need to do a course with those guys, and then from there you need to have 2 written references from people that can vouch for your experience and say that you are competent handling these animals, because they are quite venomous, and a bite can be pretty severe and life-threatening. So having the experience with these animals is definitely a key thing, and that's what National Parks are looking for with those references. From there you need to have your senior's first aid certificate, and then you have 2 insurances. Well, at least you had 2 insurances that you had to have when I applied back in 2016, and that was your public liability insurance, so that covers everyone else, and then we had to have personal accident cover, which covers us. And then from there I think that's it. I think that's all they asked for. But from there you submit that to National Parks and you wait for them to get back to you. Alright, follow up on that question. We have our next one is, why do we have a call out fee? Personally, I have a call out fee because this is what I do for a job. This is my bread and butter. This is what puts food on the table. So as a business, just like any other services such as electricians, plumbers, that sort of thing, if they're an emergency service, then of course they're going to have a call out fee. So I don't think snake catching is any different. It's an emergency service. We have a call out fee for our service. But on top of all that, just like those guys, we have our overheads. So we've got our insurances, as I spoke in the last question, courses, equipment. We've got our vehicle costs, whether it's servicing, petrol, tyres, that sort of thing. So it's all that as well. Oh, there was one other thing that I forgot, and that is that these animals can be dangerous, with how toxic their venoms can be. So we are also, putting our lives on the line to go and relocate these animals. But most importantly for me anyway is my time. I value my time quite highly, so I put a monetary value on that time, and that hence why I have a call out fee. Alright, so Shoalhaven Snake Catchers based on the New South Wales South Coast. Someone has asked me, what areas do we cover? So we cover quite a large range. The Shoalhaven is a very large region, and so essentially I cover most of the north section of Shoalhaven. So essentially from Kiama in the north all the way down to Ulladulla in the south, and then out west towards Kangaroo Valley. And I haven't been to Sassafras just because it is a little bit too far for us, but essentially it's a massive area. So to give you an idea, it'll take me, I think it was just under 3 hours to drive from the north end of Shoalhaven to the south end. So yeah, it's a very large area, and we cover most of that northern section. Next question we have is, what is it like to be a snake catcher? Alright, if I could sum up what's it like to be a snake catcher in one word, it is disruptive. So on-call basis, it means that we we can't really plan too much unless without taking a day off. But otherwise, I think it's an awesome profession. You know, it pretty much ticks all the boxes that I would want out of a job, and that's, you know, being outdoors, playing with animals that I absolutely love, and getting out into the bush. So when we release the snakes, we've got to get out and find somewhere to go and put them. So being out in the scrub is another thing that I absolutely love. So yeah, if you're not a fan of being outdoors and you're not a fan of snakes and you don't like being in the bush, then definitely not a job that you would enjoy. But for me, it's absolutely brilliant. I love it. Alright, second last question. This one is, how long is the snake season? Snake seasons will vary depending on whereabouts in the country you are. So here on the south coast of New South Wales, we usually start getting busy around mid to late September, and they'll go all the way through until mid to late May. We do have a bit of a slow period, you know, about midway. That's in between breeding season, which is, you know, around October, and the birthing and hatching season, which is usually around January through to February. So we have in that middle section, we do get a little bit slower, not as many calls, but it is pretty consistent for us throughout that period. And then we have a couple of months where it's nice and cold and we can relax a little bit. Alright, last question, it's a good one, is what's the most rewarding part about being a snake catcher? There's probably two things that are quite rewarding about being a snake catcher. The first one is seeing people's perceptions change of these animals as they learn more about them while I'm there. So when I go out to a snake call out, I don't just go out and grab the snake, put it in the bag, take off and let it go somewhere else. I usually hang around, I'll give some people some first aid information. I will tell them a bit more about that particular animal, as well as all the animals that they could come across in their particular area. So I spend a little bit of time talking to people about the animals. I spend a bit of time talking about what they do, what they like, what they eat, that sort of thing, so and what they prefer out of a habitat, so that way they can reduce the likelihood of these animals hanging around again. So seeing the people's perceptions change once they get an understanding of the animals, knowing that the animals actually aren't aggressive, that they are actually more defensive and will prefer to get away from you every single time if they have the option. It's only when they get cornered that they tend to want to defend themselves. So I think once they get an understanding of that, so that little bit of education, their perceptions of the animals absolutely change and they start to appreciate them a bit more. That's at least what I think they do anyway. But the other rewarding part would be seeing these animals go out into the wild and go and live in their days away from you know, the threats of essentially suburbia. So yeah, that's really rewarding, knowing that the animals are going out and thriving where we go and release them. Alrighty guys, so that was 10 questions that we were asked, and hopefully we've answered a couple that you had. If not, why don't you drop them in the comments below and I'll answer those ones for you. But I hope you've enjoyed it and you got a little bit of something out of this. And yeah, if you've enjoyed it, why don't you subscribe to the channel? That'll be awesome. If not, that's all good. Why don't you share the video instead? Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, have fun, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Catch ya.